Video check in, audio check. Hello, hello, David. Hi, Chris. Hi, Farmer John.
Well, right now it's running at about 10.5, Chris, but all I was worried about was just leaching at this point. I'm figuring I'm going to have to adjust pH or add some other salt or something to adjust the conductivity. We'll talk about that in a minute. My thought is, why don't I give everyone the story so that everyone will have time to show up. And then I'll get into the mining and stuff. Oh, it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did when I showed up at the hospital. Uh, Anyhow, let me just start from the beginning. Thank you, David. I was going to help Lauren for a couple of days up on the mountain. And I went up there Tuesday got there around noonish. We started doing some things. And specifically, I was helping him load pallets of cores on a flatbed trailer and tying them down so he could haul them to Butte the next morning. And then we were going to get me all lined out as to what to do while he was gone so that I could make good progress on some projects there. And as we were getting the stuff loaded, etc. Hi, honey bunny. My left nostril just started leaking blood. A reasonable stream, but not ridiculous. Okay. Now, I've had nosebleeds before, so it's like, okay, I know what to do. And I'm like, okay, you go ahead and get everything lined out here. I think we already had it tied down. And I walked back to the camp and got out the little nose clip I had left over from the last mess of nosebleed issues a couple years ago. And I put that on and it stopped it and everything was fine. The next day, Lauren went off to Butte. I started rearranging dirt, basically kind of landscaping stuff and everything. And that was pretty good exercise. I was working pretty hard. No problems at all. And when Lauren got back, we continued with the landscaping and this and that and the other, and went to bed absolutely normally. And then the next morning, I was awake. It was just before dawn. The sky wasn't really lightening at all yet. And I was laying in bed trying to get back to sleep. And there was a little something on the nose here, and I just, picked a little bit. But it was right at the very beginning. It wasn't like I was sticking up in there or whatever. And then it's like, oh crap, because all of a sudden it's wet. What the hell? So get out of the bed real quick because I don't want to get the bed all messy. And I went and it was leaking substantially more than it had 2 days before. But I wasn't too worried at this point. Started putting the pressure on, get the little clip. Of course, everything was where I couldn't get to it. I had bleed stop in my first aid kit underneath the bed. I had toilet paper on the shelf underneath Eva's coat. I had the clip for the nose in the pocket of my pants over here. So, I'm digging in the pocket of the pants. And of course, everything comes out before the clip. So, my keys and everything are just laying on the floor. I took the shirt from the day before, the 2 days before, that was already bloody, and had that on my lap to kind of catch the blood. And it wasn't stopping. So I dug out the bleed stopping. Again, this hands are bloody. As soon as I take my fingers off, it's squirting, so blood's everywhere. Get the bleed stopped. Tried just putting it on my finger and sticking it up my nose. Didn't seem to have much of an effect. So I got some toilet paper, poured it on that, stuffed that up my nose. Didn't really have a whole lot of effect that I could detect. And it's still going. It's like, this ain't going to work. So luckily, I was wearing my long underwear. So climbed out of the camper, went over to Lauren's trailer, banged on the door, and he opens up the door. Hey, what's up, Keith? And I'm like, it's not stopping. It's like, oh crap. I said, okay, I'll go sit in the camper while you get dressed and get the blue truck to haul me to town.
See, Wage Slave said what I've been saying. We're going to have to.
If we can just get them to do that instead of this stupid silver nitrate and inflatable tampons, that would be fine with me. You bet. Anyhow, so he got dressed, comes over to the camper and says, do I have time to fuel up the generator? Because we have a generator that's running water pumps that are keeping tanks full, so for the drillers. And I said, sure. I mean, it wasn't that bad. So I said, go ahead. So he does that. Then he had 3 pickup trucks up there with him. Okay. One was his new pickup truck that he bought last year to replace the one where
Hi, Lars.
He lost an engine. It sucked a valve or something. So it's a brand new diesel heavy duty pickup truck. Yeah, not going to take me to town in that. That'd be stupid. Then there's Scooter, which was the truck he rebuilt a couple of years, like 2 winters ago. And that's a pretty nice truck too. And then there's this old blue Dodge that he's just using as a fuel truck. And it's like, yeah, the blue truck. So he did that, got the blue truck, came on over there. I just had him grab my boots, my pants, throw them in the truck, and then get in there. I say, luckily I had my long underwear, so when I got to the hospital, it'd be no problem. And then we drove to town, and about 8 miles to the pavement, another 15 miles to the top of McDonald Pass, and at that point, the bleeding had pretty much stopped. The sun was just not quite coming up over the horizon yet. I got to see a nice sunrise. Yay, I'm excited here. Yeah. So anyhow, he takes me to town and gets me to the hospital, the ER there, gets my stuff and everything, and then, he's got to get back to work, etc., which is fine. And there was nobody else in the ER, at least not in the waiting room. And so I got pretty quick service. They stuck one of these inflatable tampons up my nose and inflated it. Got everything under control. And then on his way back out of town, Lauren had stopped by the trailer, woke up Eva. And so by the time I was calling Eva to come pick me up, she was literally parking the car out in the parking lot. So got everything taken care of, came home, spent the day just basically on the computer and stuff, not doing anything terribly important. I think because this thing's rather uncomfortable, especially when first installed, and it was getting more comfortable. So I think it might have been losing a little pressure. I don't know. Anyhow, about 5 o'clock in the evening, All of a sudden, I feel wet again. I checked, and yeah, it's blood. And Lord have mercy, was it running? So I told Eva, you got to take me to the hospital. While she's getting her shoes on and stuff, I literally grabbed an empty bucket off of the front porch and got in the passenger side of the van and just kind of hugged my head over. Oh, I'm trying to do what pressure I can, but I can't really press on the nostrils because there was so much blood that it would have, yeah, it's not going to work out. You need to drain it. So anyhow, she gets me to the hospital. This time the waiting room is not empty. It had, what, about a dozen people? Would you guess? Somewhere around there.
At least in a 2 to 4 hour wait.
It said there was, did it say 2 to 4 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, anyhow, they have a little sign there that we have this long a wait, you know? And I'm looking at this going, yeah, that's not going to work, but what can you do? So the guy there, he first he tried to put a clip on my nose right down here, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. I'll just start choking on my own blood. So he put it up there. Okay, fine, if it makes him happy. And then here's this bloody mess dude with a bucket of blood. Yeah, that's true. I would have died, wage slave. No joke. Anyhow, we go over there, kind of try and get toward the back of the waiting room where I'm not in the middle of everybody. And I'm sitting there just slowly filling up a bucket. And, you know, with my scientific bent, one thing I'm noticing is like, I wonder how fast I'm losing blood. You know, how dangerous is this? The first thing I noticed was I could see 3 droplets of blood in the air at once. On, you know, between my nose and the bottom of the bucket. Okay. This was a 5-gallon bucket, David. It was plenty big enough.
Boa.
That's pretty. Anyhow, so then I'm like trying to count the speed because the standard thing is 20 drops per milliliter. So I'm looking at it, that's about 10 drops a second. So I asked Eva to do the math. 0.5 milliliters a second times 60 seconds times 60 minutes is 1,800 milliliters an hour. Okay? In other words, I will be dead in less than an hour at this rate. You know? Because I lost over 3/5 of my blood. So I'm like, now this isn't terribly doable. So I let Eva know you're going to have to expedite this stuff. And she went over there to let them know he's bleeding really seriously. I mean, this is not just a nosebleed thing. This guy's seriously exsanguinating. And they said something to the effect of, we'll get to it as soon as we can or something, right, little one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that, which wasn't very, hey, Brian, wasn't very reassuring. So I decided to start making a little bit of a thing. I said, you know, well, if they don't get this dealt with pretty quickly, I'm probably going to pass out and spill this whole bucket of blood all over their nice floor. You know, their carpet and everything. God, I mean, everyone's watching all of this. It's quite the show. Luckily, there weren't any kids to terrify. But they got me back there in about 5 minutes or so. And they got in the back, and first thing they did, they just inflated the one that was already in my nose more. And that radically reduced the flow to almost nothing. So I was sitting there for quite a while they kind of evaluated that to see if it worked. And it was like 95% effective or something, but it really hadn't stopped it. They decided, okay, we're going to have to repatch this tire here. I'm watching.
Dump the blood all over the floor. Yeah. Wow. I was pretty much
I was ready to do so. I was ready to faint and just spread blood everywhere. It's like, quick movement or else I'm going to make somebody move quick. Anyhow, and something, Lars, not sure. Anyhow, they came back a little bit later. Now the urgency was way off, so they come back a little later and check, and I'm still leaking a bit. He goes, okay, we're going to have to take that one out and put in a longer one. It's like, okay, that's not going to be fun. And he also had another stratagem, which was they've got some kind of system he had to get from pharmacy. It's a box with a number of this is and that's and the other. But basically, you take and I forget what the particular chemical is. It's a clotting agent.
Prothrombin or something.
Yeah,
like
thrombin.
That.
Yeah, anyhow,
it makes a biofoam.
Well, that's what not was me. They make a biofoam with the prothrombin in it. First, he has to dissolve the prothrombin, in a vial. He squirts stuff, does this and everything, then sucks it out, and then has two different syringes hooked together and working it back and forth to get it all mixed in this foam.
Kind of like epoxy, but foam.
Yeah, it's a much nicer system than epoxy.
Yeah, I love the way he was reading the instructions.
Yeah, he said every time we got to do this, it's a different kit from a different manufacturer. It's got different hardware, different instructions. So he's having to read the instructions. And then the plan is they're going to insert the super long inflatable tampon while at the same time injecting the foam. And then when they inflate the tampon, it's going to press the foam into all the little cracks and everything and make sure it gets to wherever it needs to get. Now, hey,
hi, Mr. Virtue.
Removing the old device was unpleasant. Inserting the new device was substantially more unpleasant. Eva had the misfortune of me holding her hand at this time. Luckily, she wasn't seriously injured. Next time, we'll have you hold on to me instead of the other way around for safety. But anyhow, I'm sure everyone within 50 yards in that hospital had a really good idea that I was not a happy camper. Now, I was cool. I did not use any obscenities. In fact, I was not even really capable of articulating anything in a language type format. I was expressing myself in a much more basic format, and I say everyone was aware of it. And then when it was over, and now they needed to see how that was going to do and everything, had to sit around a while. Seemed to have pretty much stopped. As you can see, it's not even 100% stopped right now, but it's at an insignificant level at the moment. And went home about midnight. We'd been there 4, 5, 6 hours. I don't know. It's quite a while. The next morning, I get up, and that was Friday. The blood was on caveman speak, pretty much. Yeah, Brian. And so anyhow, the next morning, I get up. Now, I have instructions to call the ear, nose, and throat person in order to get an appointment to have this removed, and So I called them up, and the receptionist, or whoever was doing the thing, said, "Is it still leaking?" And so I checked, and yeah, it was still leaking. And you do that, and it was actual blood. Okay. I said, "Yeah, it's still leaking." She says, "Well, then you really need to go back to the ER. Dr. Sanders, ENT guy, is on call, so you should be able to." I don't know why they didn't call Dr. Sanders, but anyhow. And so we had a couple errands to run. We ran the first one, and I was not feeling well. I was lightheaded, serious problem with motion sickness, and I told Eva, "Okay, let's abort the other stuff and let's go straight to the ER." So Eva very carefully, gently drove me to the ER, and we went in there, and they started examining the situation stuff, and uh, they kept looking at me and stuff. They didn't really do anything with this, but they kept doing tests, and then after 4 hours or something like that, now they're like, "Okay, we're going to send you to CAT scan, do a CAT scan of your brain, your head." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, this is getting a little weird here." And what it was is, that's basically it, Chris. I had lost so much blood that things were not working well. My blood pressure was up because my body was working hard to
Yeah, he
compensate.
doesn't eat much in the way of nitrates anyway, Wage Slave, but yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it.
And so my blood pressure was high. My hematocrit, my hemoglobin was low. Not hugely low, but low. And the other thing was that my troponins were somewhat elevated. And troponins are typically associated with heart attacks. So it's like, okay, now I see why they're starting to get serious here. They gave me a chest x-ray, and I was hooked up to KG and this and that and the other. And they decided, when was it that they basically decided to keep me in? You went home about 10 o'clock that evening?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, she'd been there a long time. I'm on Plavix because of the recent heart attack and the stents in my heart right now. So anyhow, they said, "I don't know if we're going to get you a room tonight. You may have to sleep here in the ER," to which I'm like, "I don't care. I can do it." So I was in the ER till a little after midnight. Then they wound up with a room for me. And this thing, when they put it in, they put a coagulant in there, yeah, And so anyhow, they took me to a room, spent the night. Next morning, they did an echocardiogram, taking blood samples like every 6 to 8 hours or whatever. So here's the upshot: lost a lot of blood, enough to strain my body. The troponin levels started coming right back down. They never did get very high. It's simply a stress response. The hemoglobin stabilized, started to come back up a little bit, and the blood pressure was coming back down at a more normal range. And the echocardiogram showed that my heart had actually healed up quite substantially since my heart attack last spring. So that was good news. And then they released me, came home, been here a couple of days, taking it easy. And I'm supposed to go tomorrow, get this thing taken out, and hopefully they will do the electrocautery stuff let's get serious here, dudes. If this had happened when we were out there looking at that shaft about a month ago, I very likely would have died because there was no cell phone service. If the first aid kit I had, if I couldn't have just shoved enough bleed stop in there and put enough pressure to stop it, Eva could not have got help to me fast enough, no matter what. Okay, even if she was able to walk real fast to the nearest residences, which was 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
Rouse them, get their their vehicle, get to the top of the pass, call for help. Another hour before rescuers show up. By then, it's over. That's freaking ridiculous. So we're going to be pretty insistent tomorrow. No, you need to fix this and fix it permanently. Okay? This is simply not acceptable. I don't live next to the hospital my whole life. Probably, Chris. Even there, sat phones, you call up, they respond, they get there in an hour and a half, it's over. I've either controlled the bleeding or I'm dead. You know? It's just too long a response time. It's not like I can put a tourniquet on. If I get my hand cut off, I can put a tourniquet on it and I will live. You can't put a tourniquet on a nose. It doesn't work. The balloon, maybe, Chris, but we'll be talking to the ENT tomorrow and see what can be done. But yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So that's the story of the leaky professor. I agree, Chris. But again, I can't just go out and buy that. I might be able to get it on Amazon, but I don't know. But I say we'll talk to the ENT tomorrow, and yeah, it'd be nice. Around here, apparently, they don't launch life flight in general unless a ground rescuer calls it in. Okay? Which I disagree with, but what the hell? So, that's kind of the situation. Once we go to the ENT tomorrow, I may very well make just a very short video because I know a lot of you are very interested in this, just to let you know what happened and what the responses were. And the nose isn't hurting too bad. The first 24 hours, it was pretty uncomfortable. I think the tissues have kind of got used to the insult right now. Right now, I'm taking one regular Tylenol every 6 hours, and that's controlling the pain adequately. Look at that little one. See, folks? So, anyhow, I say right now I'm in town, but before I can do anything, even in town in terms of work or whatever, we're going to have to get this thing fixed. So, that's the situation. On the other hand, that doesn't keep me out of the lab. Go ahead to the whiteboard, little one. As those of you who keep up with the videos on a weekly basis noticed,
I am going to do.
It's not my head that's in the way, little one. It's your hand when you go to move it. What's so much to do? Let me show you something. First of all, get the tilt right, and then move it from down here.
Can't move it back further because of the thing.
I understand. There, that's pretty good.
That's the best you're going to get.
Good enough. Wonderful, Chris. Anyhow, so right now, the initial test, we did a bottle roll test on the sulfide concentrates and got
a cocaine soaked tampon. Yep.
yeah, and it worked pretty well on the unroasted sulfides. I mean, it got better than 100% of the fire assay in terms of recovered gold. Like, okay, that'll work. It's still not as good as if it was roasted, but it came in at something like 88% of the recovery done on the roasted material. It's like, yeah, not roasting saves a lot of hassle, especially initially. So the initial tests indicate the sulfides are running like 5 ounces to the ton. They're making 50 to 100 pounds a day. And they leach pretty well in 24 hours. Okay. So we're dealing with relatively high grade, relatively low volume, and relatively fast leach time. Okay. You put those things together, and that puts you in an unusual situation. Not unprecedented, but it's not like normally you'd be processing ore. This is processing concentrates a particular way, etc. So 50 to 100 pounds a day, agitation leach. Hell, I can do that in a cement mixer. It'll work fine. You know? Doing batch leaches gives you certain options. Now, you could easily do a carbon in leach or resin in leach also using a cement mixer. Okay? There'd be nothing wrong with that. However, the issue with a carbon in leach or a resin in leach is now you have to have a stripping circuit. The people I'm dealing with are not millwrights, extractive metallurgists, chemists, things like this. Want to keep it as simple as possible. Also, we would like to get reasonable recoveries in hand and saleable as quickly as possible. So the idea is, what's a reasonably efficient system, reasonably inexpensive, and can be deployed very rapidly? Okay? So the initial thought came up with an Eco Goldex leach with cement mixers. Could work fine in terms of that, but now we got to get the dissolved gold away from the solid rock. Okay? Generally, the way most people look at this, they think filtration. And there's nothing wrong with that. But even in a good filtration, where you're using vacuum, and you suck the solution out of your pulp and then even give it a rinse, you're still likely to leave 5 to 10% of the original solution still inside the cracks between the particles. Okay? So that means you're going to lose 5 to 10% of the gold. Now, assuming you recycle that solution and stuff, you got another shot to get it. It's not horrible. You're not going to be throwing away good solution anyhow in general. However, there's another methodology called countercurrent decantation, which is what I thought I would test. I have the exact equipment needed to test it on a very, very accurate basis so that it can be scaled up pretty reliably. I'm doing 500 gram samples, which is essentially 1 pound. Well, I know, Chris, I'm talking about ordinary people, though. I mean, that's why carbon and leach and resin and leach are so popular is because they do a great job of getting the gold away from the rock. But anyhow, the way countercurrent decantation works is you're basically draining the liquid away from the solids and then adding barren liquid, stirring it up, doing it again, doing it again, doing it again. According to the calculations that you saw on the video, about 70% of the solution is easily removed by just letting it settle for a short period of time and then decanting and just pouring it off. Which means you leave 30% in the pulp. When you add another batch of solution and stir it up and decant it, now you're 30% of 30%, blah, blah, blah. Again, 4 stages. There it is. 4 stages. And you're down to less than 1% left. And that 1% is pretty much going to be thrown away. Okay. Unless you're throwing your tailings out onto a pad or something like that for later scavenging recovery. That's just going to wind up as a loss. But 99% recovery is usually considered pretty good. Now this morning, I've been spending this weekend just getting the whole system charged, so to speak, where there was something in each position. And then this morning I realized, wait a minute, something's a little wrong here. And I figured out what it was and what the answer is. First of all, here's the way it is when it's running. You have position 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you've got solution 1, 2, 3, and 4, and ore 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? This is just what you're doing most of the time. Now we're going to go and move stuff around so that we can do this countercurrent part. Okay? This is where it gets complicated. And the problem is, if you look here, you still have 4 pulps and 4 solutions that are numbered. Okay? Okay, well, what changed? Well, what really changed is right here, you put fresh pulp in here, which has no solution, and you've taken this solution out of circuit. This is your pregnant solution. So you now have 2 positions with no solution in them. That's where it gets kind of counterintuitive. So once you've done this part, you've taken this solution out, got your container here with a fresh charge of pulp. Now you take the solution from back here, move it ahead 2 stages, put it here. Same with this one. You move it ahead 2 stages to here, move it from the last stage to here, and then you bring in your barren solution for the last stage. We'll see. We're just going to save them for now, Chris. We'll probably be roasting them sometime in the future. Because even though this is pretty good recovery, it's still leaving a reasonable amount in there. We'll worry about it when we have a roasting circuit. So anyhow, that's where it gets kind of counterintuitive. Take this out of circuit. Now you got 2 batches of solution. So you move everything forward 2 steps. Okay? And then solids here go to tailings. And using this system, we should get really high recoveries. Now, when I set it up Thursday, Friday, maybe? No, it's Thursday because Friday morning, the one thing we did get done was to take the sample from the bottle roll over to the lab. Drop that off. I got the results today. Now, the original bottle roll for the sulfides, Eco Gold X, came out to 250 parts per million recovered into solution. Okay? This one was 7. Okay? I had changed quite a few parameters. This is where testing is really, really important. I'm trying to not only get efficiency, but I want to kind of optimize things And 20 grams of Eco Gold X is a lot. So instead, I went to more of a standard 5 grams of Eco Gold X, knowing it might not be enough. You know? So the whole situation here was 1/4 the amount of Eco Gold X in position 1 as I had originally. I'm leaking more, little one.
Great.
I think it's all this talking. But anyhow, so that was one big change. Less Eco Gold X might have easily gotten consumed, especially with everything else that might be there besides gold. And also in the first one, because of the potential for extremely high grades due to reported stuff from the principals, I had done it with a 10-to-1 solution to solids ratio. I had very little solids for solution, which kind of guarantees you got plenty of opportunity for recovery, but it also gave me a lot more Eco Gold X to solids. Okay. Now the fact that it worked with 20 grams, that was only 100 grams of sample too. Now I'm doing a 500 gram sample. So I've increased the solids by a factor of 5, decreased the Eco Gold X by a factor of 5. Okay? Interesting. So, the amount of Eco Gold X radically different. The amount of solid to liquids ratio is also radically different. Tomorrow, now that I've got the system kind of at a steady state, and all the makeup liquid I've been using here, I was just making up fresh Eco Gold X solution at 5 grams per 500 milliliter charge. So theoretically, it had time to really work its way through here a little bit, and we'll see what we actually get. But I've got everything ready tomorrow. I'm going to stop the system in order to do the usual change and make my video. I am going to take samples from each stage. I'll titrate the Eco Gold X and be ready to send them off to the lab. If I'm winding up bare with Eco Gold X, I probably won't even bother sending them to the lab. Okay? I'll go ahead and add more Eco Gold X and just keep running them in the same positions for now. Right now I have one batch of tailing out of circuit. So
that's a brand new description.
What?
She may be beautiful, but she has the IQ of a box of air.
Oh. Anyhow.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think possibly this is also losing a little bit of pressure. You have a problem? I know where to go. I got a chauffeur to get me there. But anyhow, this is why you do testing on a laboratory scale. Because when you're optimizing, you're by definition taking it past where it works well into the regime where it doesn't work well. You know where that boundary is. It's a lot cheaper, a lot simpler to do it at this scale. And if it doesn't work, then you haven't really lost much except for a bit of time and some Eco Gold X. This is why it's so important to do stuff on a small scale. When I do this, I am then in the process of generating a significant amount, not a huge amount, but a significant amount of pregnant solution, that then the next step comes in. And that is, how do I get the gold out of the solution? My preferred method would be direct electrowinning. Set up an electrolytic cell and just run it through there and get it. And um, the problem with that is we need to have enough conductivity and a few other little things. But again, this is where you set it up on a little bench scale, and I was planning on just taking my two electrodes, spacing them about half an inch apart, hooking it up, putting it on the side of a beaker, running the stirrer in there, and just running it as a batch to see what it takes to get conductivity. What do you think I'm going to need to get sufficient conductivity, Chris, if all I adjust is just the pH? Because it seems to me from very cursory examine of a couple of things that if I increase the pH very much on the Eco Goldex, it's going to start precipitating stuff. I do not know. I do have the right the meter to measure that, but I don't have that number right now, Chris. So I don't know. Do you think simply raising the pH to I don't think I can go more than about a 12 without risking precipitation. Do you think that in itself would be sufficient? Yeah, as I do have a meter that supposedly does test conductivity now, and I can check that out and talk to you tomorrow. But assuming that a simple pH adjustment is not possible that will give us adequate conductivity, the idea comes to my mind of adding some sort of a salt to the solution in order to increase the conductivity. Does that concept sound good to you, Chris? And if so, what chemical do you think would be the most likely? Okay, I got an ORP meter too. I mean, it does all three. Probably not very good because $30, but it does like 7 different things. Okay, so now you need to measure the ORP and the conductivity before I call you. Got it? So, I say, does it seem plausible that a pH of 11.5 or 12 is going to work? And if not, what would my kind of first possibility be? Copper ions. I've got copper sulfate. Do you think that would work well? Or do I need like copper hydroxide or something? Copper hydroxide salt? Soluble? I don't know. Uh, might be able to make copper chloride too. Not sure how soluble that is. I've got copper sulfate on hand. Just use a copper electrode. You mean the anode? Use a copper anode? That should be pretty easy to do. I love the other one. You might want to switch the camera angle. Okay. So if I used a copper electrode, it's just going to drive that copper off and into solution until we get appropriate conductivity. Is it going to plate? Initial trials, you could use copper both and do a displacement bit of voltage. I've got stainless steel cathodes on the way. Any problem with stainless steel cathode on that, Chris? Or should I make sure it's copper? Because I can get copper over at Hobby Lobby. Eva hates going to Hobby Lobby. It's horrible, isn't
Fate worse than death.
it? Yep.
Please. Oh no, don't force me to spend several hours in Hobby Lobby again. Aisle by aisle.
Yeah, I'll probably be talking to you a little bit, Chris. But so do you think stainless steel cathode is important, or just go ahead with copper cathode and uh, anode? Okay. Well, it's certainly easy to do. I don't have the what do you call it? Stainless steel at the moment, so not a problem. I say we can go to Hobby Lobby and get it. Right now, I'm trying to figure out. No, we can tomorrow. We can also do some spot tests because we're using Eco Goldex. Got the KD3 in the spot plate, so
I mean,
we'll take the four samples I take out of circuit, or split off of there. We'll go ahead and do a quick Eco Goldex test. If we're still in the positive, if we're in a positive Eco Goldex range, we'll worry about maybe doing an assay. If not, we'll just crank up the Eco Goldex.
Well, I want to mix up some titration stuff tomorrow.
It's already done.
I do wish you'd let me my thread. I can actually.
Oh, we got pipettes.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it, Chris. And I say once I get these guys operating a little better, then I'll see about that. The other question is, um, the agreement we have on this particular location is only through December 1st. So depending upon what happens after that, we may wind up considering moving locations too. Like things are pretty up in the air right at the moment. So right now I'm just operating with what I've got and trying to get these guys operating as quick as possible. Can you access my mail without messing up the little one? Not necessarily to look at it.
I can try.
Okay. So I
It doesn't
presume you guys are
necessarily
still
have to look
sick.
at it. You just see the cat. What are you looking for?
Nothing, Jared. Okay, that's all I need to know. Okay, go back. So another.
Yeah, on the 11th, it's about the Jared apparently sent you several about the
No, I mean
Goldex.
a new one.
No.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. There's no new ones from Jared.
No.
Therefore, the information hasn't changed since this
why
morning.
he's even looking at research for Eco Gold.
Yeah. But anyhow, okay, Chris. So another serious question is how much free milling gold and but gravity recoverable and sulfides are going away in the tailings. Okay. Now this is a question which we don't have a good answer to because they haven't taken enough tailings samples and had them assayed yet to give me a good statistical data set to work on. However, all the tailing samples taken to date were significant amounts of gold in them. And the initial very rough tests that we did here indicate that the VDR mat from Infinity Prospecting seems to do a pretty good job. The stuff we've done out at the mill also showed the VDR mat good. So we're trying to get a couple mats down to the mine site to set in the tailings flows off of the mill to see whether or not we can get a substantial amount of valuable stuff scavenged from those flows relatively easily. Because if you're just running a sluice box, it's real simple. I mean, even if it had to be relatively long with a number of mats in each sluice box, and then at the end of the day, you take them all out, rinse them off, and then retable that material later, it would certainly be relatively straightforward to do. And I contacted the people at Infinity. Infinity said that he had tried to contact Jared directly and had received no response as of a day or so ago. So I had asked Jared, have you heard anything from this guy? Is it a communications issue where this guy's trying to get a hold of Jared, but for whatever reason, it's not happening? Okay. I don't know. So I'm trying to get a hold of Jared and say, have you heard from this guy? And if so, have you responded? Because that's another potential significant source of gold that's real easy to get. Again, right now we're trying to skim the cream. Wherever we can get gold easily and cheaply and simply with minimal investment, minimal time, and minimal complexity and training, that's what we're looking for right now. And that's another thing where it should be fairly easy to do. So that's where we're at right now. And I'm still dealing with this. But that doesn't slow me down really at all in the lab, which is perfectly acceptable. And see what happens. Next week I'll have more videos on what's happening in the lab and such, what's happening with my nose, and a few other little things. Let's see. Can't think of anything right at the moment to add into any of that. Does anyone have any questions or subjects at this point? I've pretty much monopolized everything for the moment. That's starting. Not bad.
In case you are curious, we shall go see, but futures are going amazing.
Silver's
I'm
really
missing all the fun. Gold is 36.83 and up. Silver is $42.65.
Okay.
Yes. Platinum's 1402. Who cares? Palladium 1187. Oh boy. Rhodium 6875. Whoop-de-doo.
Okay, Brian. Now here's the situation that's going to affect the throughput. First of all, what size cement mixer? Let's assume, for the sake of the argument, a decent size standard. Okay, take care, Sarah. Let's suppose that a good sized cement mixer could do like 200 pounds with a 1-to-1 solution to solids ratio. A smaller one will easily do 100 pounds, which is why I'm thinking that. The other question that's really, really critical is what's your retention time? The preliminary testing we did indicated a retention time of 24 hours should be plenty. Now, the idea of batch, it's on a periodicity, it's going to have a period. Okay. And so it's nice if your cycle time is like 24 hours. Okay. You do stuff once leaving the cement mixers running overnight, piece of cake. Okay. So let's suppose you have cement. Now, what is not necessarily intuitively obvious in this is doing it the way I'm doing it is less efficient than you could do it potentially. You're actually getting more passes at it. So the total retention time in this system is 4 days before you throw it away. So you have all that extra time to dissolve more gold. On the other hand, if you really have got it all dissolved in 24 hours, these rinse steps can be done very quickly depending on how fast it settles. The way this is settling, I would guess you could easily do these 3 steps in 2 hours each. Okay? And you could do this if you had like 2 cement mixers here, and you put your fresh ore in here and your solution, you start it running. And then when you're done, you just, either move it, the cement mixer. Just remember, this is the one that's now being rinsed as opposed to running. Run this one. But then just take buckets of solution or containers of solution and put some in there, run it, get a good stir. That's all you need. If you're done digesting, all you need to do is stir it thoroughly. Then let it settle, decant, put in the next batch of solution, stir it, settle it, let it decant, do it again, 3 stages, at a total of 2 hours each, 6 hours, it's ready to throw away. So you would only need 2 cement mixers to have one line, so to speak, one set of slingers. Hey, Rock. To him and us, popping in to give you a thumbs up. Hey, Rock. Been having a little trouble with my nose lately. The inflatable cork isn't working super well. We'll see what happens tomorrow, assuming I don't have to go back to the ER tonight. We shall see. It's been interesting. But luckily, they can control it enough that I'm still surviving. But I have lost probably a couple of units of blood before they get things stabilized. Less than ideal. And so anyhow, that's what I'm saying, Brian, is this is just the system as I've got it planned out. That doesn't mean it's the most efficient system. You could easily double production for 4 cement mixers by using one as a digestion one and the other one as a rinsing one, and just use a whole bunch of buckets for your solution. Apparently not well enough. So, theoretically, if your digestion is quite thorough in 24 hours, 2 cement mixers, 200 pounds a day. Okay. Hello, Satirtha. Dasgupta. Interesting name. Where are you from, Satirtha? How was my day? Well, it's less than ideal, but I'm still breathing okay. I still got my oxygen addiction, so it could be worse. Hey, Jimmy. Theoretically, yeah, Jimmy. It's annoying, but in no theoretical reason should it be a problem for them to keep me from bleeding to death out of my nose. Now, whether or not they're competent enough to figure that out and execute is an entirely different question. But that's what it is. It's basically just a really bad nosebleed. So we shall see. But anyhow, that gives you an idea, Brian, what you could do. But in order to figure it out from India, but now from Spain, interesting life, Siddhartha. Uh, so that's what I'm doing right now. This is what all these bottle rolls are. That's what all the laboratory testing's for. Uh, I have an inflatable tampon up my left nostril, Jimmy. It's about that long. What did you say about that long, little one?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that long. And so it's pressing on everything. The patch on the cheek is just for the fill line. uh, so yeah, uh, it was a significant issue. If I hadn't had access to medical care, it could have very reasonably have been life ending. I was losing blood at the rate of like a quart an hour. Eva's got a picture of the bucket of blood on her phone.
Yeah, I still have to send that to the computer.
No, you can just view it and show it right here. Does anyone want to see the bucket of blood?
It doesn't work that well.
Well, this is good enough. I don't think anyone's really intensely interested. Uh, but anyhow, so
there is the bucket of blood. And by the way, it looks like you can see bare floor in there. That's not bare floor. That's the white reflection of light on top of the blood.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was about a quarter-inch deep in that bucket.
The patch on the cheek is the tape that's holding the
Tube, yeah, the
the
fill
tube.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a less than ideal week, Jimmy. Oh, so that pretty much answer your questions, Brian. But this is why you do stuff on a small scale first. You really want to define your reagent consumption, your retention time that you need, optimization of your pH, your solids liquid ratio, things like that. Not yet, Jimmy. And this is the time to do those tests, not when you're running 100 pounds a day through your system. You know, that's why you do this. It's really, really important to do that lab scale first. When you scale up, it will probably change a little bit even then. But you certainly don't want to be playing around with 100-pound batches in cement mixers when you could be doing it on little half-gallon jugs with 1 pound in each one. I'm not sure what I'm going to have to do, Mr. Virtue. This is less than ideal. I would have thought, go to the ER, they take a look and say, you're bleeding like a stuck pig. Let's get out the cautery and cautery it. And nah. Let's stick this balloon in there and inflate it and then think about it for a couple of days. See what happens. Yeah. I did recognize the noises I was making. I have heard them before. It was the audio track of a person on a passenger plane that was being tortured by terrorists. Sounded remarkably similar. Now, I got a question, Brian. Um, what is the exact procedure for uh, precipitation of gold from the Eco Goldex? And does it um, destroy the Eco Goldex in the process? Or do you just kind of inert it a little bit through a pH change or something? Do your precipitation and then readjust? I've lost my paperwork on that, or at least I misplaced it. And so, what is the procedure you're using? I saw you doing the filtration thing, but I didn't see the instructions on how you got there. So, um, that's if you have the exact instructions on your computer where you can send me a copy, I'd appreciate it. But just roughly, what's the general procedure? You clarify the solution, you do something to the solution, zinc powder, zinc shavings. Do you do anything to adjust the solution whatsoever? Right? Or do you just put it straight in the solution? Because if that was it, we can always use zinc shavings to um, get it. Do the instructions say what the issue is, Brian? You know, because that's, again, it's not nearly as important when you're doing small batches as it would be if you were doing much larger amounts of much lower grade material. Then the consumption, reagent consumption becomes much more important. With these kind of grades, if we have to, we can destroy the Eco Goldex to recover the gold without totally killing it. Okay, change it to acidic and then zinc. Can you then, well, I don't have those instructions right now, Brian. I can't find them. That was 5 years ago. We were looking more at low concentrations in solution, as in 10 part per million, and now we're dealing with hundreds of parts per million. That changes a lot of calculations. So that was what I was wondering. Do you know if you then just can reconstitute the Eco Gold X by putting it back basic, or do you need to basically almost start from scratch again? Okay, yeah, if you can send me a copy, I'd appreciate it, Brian. Thank you. I appreciate it. Huh. Yes, Siddhartha, Satirtha. It sometimes can be. What this is my weekly live stream on gold mining, prospecting, and stuff. I am not like most gold prospecting channels where you deal with what they call placer gold or like gold nuggets in dirt and gravel. My specialty is hard rock gold, where you're actually digging rocks, crushing them, recovering the gold. In this particular case, we're dealing with having to dissolve the gold from the rock. And then how do you dissolve it? How do you get it back out of solution? How do you get the solution away from the rock? And so that's uh, what we're doing tonight, basically. Plus, I've got a little injury here that we're dealing with. uh, the people around here, it's kind of a little community. It's not big, but we know each other and help each other out and stuff like that. And it's kind of an interesting situation here. I also post the videos, which kind of explain what I was doing this week in better detail. And then we quite often discuss things during the live stream. I am glad you're having a good time. But say that's how the countercurrent decantation works. Whether or not it works well, it would not be preferred if it was low grade or if it was high volume. Okay, that would not be the way you'd go. If it was high volume, you'd probably want to go with carbon and leach or resin and leach. If it was low grade, you're probably looking more of a pad leach or something like that. Any other questions, anyone? I hope I don't have to go back to the ER tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little worried about that.
I think it's probably losing a little bit of pressure.
Yeah. Well, they're not designed to be in there for days and days and days.
I don't know.
I read very depressed.
Okay, Albatross. Thank you.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Does Central America have old cement trucks? I'm sure they do, Brian. And yes, you could do it with cement trucks. Okay. It would be, well, let's see, you got the fins in there. The problem with a cement truck would be decanting the liquid, because in order to essentially pump the liquid out of the cement truck, they rotate the drum and that causes agitation. But you could probably like weld a fitting on the side of the drum or something where you could drain it that way. You could also use agitation tanks of any other methodology, like a Pachuca tank, or like you're using on a small scale, a little agitation tank. Certainly, it's the only reason I was talking about cement mixers is because for less than $400, you can buy a brand new cement mixer. I would be willing to bet you it probably cost you more than $400 to build your little agitation tank, huh, Brian? When you get all the parts involved. There's different ways you could do it, Brian, but if you've ever looked inside a cement truck, it's not empty in there. There's a lot of structure inside the drum. Okay? And that would be potentially. Now, you could take that drum and remove the fins and then just, use it like that. That would be perfectly acceptable. But you just need some kind of agitation and some way to decant. So it could certainly work. Luckily, in this application, we don't need to worry about that much throughput. So, or it's not critical for this particular application. cement mixers, should be fine. Yes, Saturtha. Chris Georgie knows a lot about electronics and stuff. He was in that business for quite a while. We have some pretty knowledgeable people here. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I would say it counts.
Well, when we stop the live stream and I stop talking, well, wait a
We'll
bit.
have to see what happens.
If it keeps leaking, I'll probably have to go back to talk.
That's what I'm kind of worried about.
They probably just need to reinflate it a little bit. Not tonight. I'm going to post that later. And like in a couple.
You said.
Oh, about, yeah. By the way, guys, Ziva brought up, due to the fact that it's been a slow summer, etc., I rarely ask for money, and we're not in desperate straits, but it would be helpful if we got a little bit of extra money over the next couple of months. We'll be making an announcement soon that'll make it a little clearer exactly why. So if anyone would like to donate, do it through the PayPal address. Okay? I may have to muscle up. I agree completely. It's one of those things.
Yeah, he's not in very good shape at the moment. Just saying.
But yeah, there's a lot of options, Brian. But part of what I like to do is explain to people what some of the options are that they may not have thought of. They might go, "Wow, that'll work." Oh, anyhow, so life's kind of complicated at the moment. I'm not going to be able to do much work between now and winter, so it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's probably going to end up going in again, Chris. I'm hoping he has time for us to have dinner first.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it ain't leaking that fast. It's not like we're in a big hurry. Thank you, Muscle Up.
Good night, Mr. Virtue. Good night, Chris.
Yeah,
Good night,
okay.
everybody.
We're going to call it a night here. I want to thank you for the help. I'll be talking to you later, Chris, once I got ready to start doing the electrolytic tests, and we'll go ahead and get some copper electrode, material from Hobby Lobby. Okay. Okay, little one. Go ahead. I will, Chris.
Prospecting and keep it safe out there, people.
Thanks for the visits.
Good night.